Best part, you don't need to write a single line of code. If you're new to it, N8N is an open source automation platform that lets you connect apps, APIs, and AI models together visually. It's like building your own mini AI system using simple drag and drop nodes. Whether you're automating emails, connecting chatbots, or orchestrating full-blown AI workflows, N8N makes it easy to go from idea to automation fast. We'll walk through everything step by step, from setting up your workflow to connecting LLMs using free practice API keys so your agent can actually think and act on its own. By the end, you'll have your own production-ready AI agent ready for real-world use case. And the coolest part, you'll get to practice building it right away on our free N8N labs, which I've linked down in the description below. So, let's dive right in. Once you click on the link to the lab and wait a couple seconds, you'll see that an N8N instance is going to spin up on your terminal. And you'll need to fill up some simple credentials such as your email, first name, last name, and a password. And again, don't worry about saving your password somewhere because the data is only going to be stored within the instance. And once you have that filled up, you can just hit next. And there's some customization questions that you can simply ignore because it's not required within the lab environment. So you can just hit get started. And also with the paid features pop-up, you can just hit skip and go right into the dashboard where you can hit start from scratch. And once you do that, you'll be led into an empty worksheet where essentially you can start building your workflow. So for the very first step, you want to pick a trigger node. And a trigger node is basically a node which will activate or trigger your entire workflow. Now here, we're going to pick the chat trigger. And the reason we want to pick the chat trigger is because we want to be able to communicate with the AI agent that we're going to build. In this case, we're going to build an email AI agent using Gmail. And we're just going to populate the chat node here by hitting chat. And we'll say hello. And with N8N, you always have an input and an output in each node. My input to this particular node is the prompt hello. And it's passing out an output because it's not connected to anything right now. It's just going to say that the chat input is hello. So the next node I want to hit, I'm going to blow this up so it's easy to see, is the AI agent node. Now with the AI agent node, the default prompt is whatever that's connected to the chat trigger. So we can leave that as is. As for the user prompt, it is already rightfully passing in the chat input, which is hello over here as a variable. And you can see that hello here is a value of that chat input variable right there. And of course, for the AI agent to function, it needs to have a model, aka a brain, which is the LLM that is attached to it. In this case, we're going to hit the plus sign here, which is to add the chat model, and we're going to pick OpenAI chat model. And in order to connect to an OpenAI chat model, you need to set up the credentials. So we're going to hit create a new credential, and this is where you're going to need an OpenAI API key. So typically, if you were to go to OpenAI and grab the key, you're probably going to have to fill in some credit card details, etc. But in this case, we can simply go to Cloud Keyspace to grab our API keys. And what I want to do is to follow the instruction in the left-hand bar right here. And you see that there's a link to code key. I'm going to just hit that URL. And I'm going to hit launch now. And it's going to lead me to this dashboard right here. I'm going to click Start Playground. And there we go. So this is the dashboard on Cloud Keyspace. And what I want to pick is the OpenAI GPT-4.1. And in this case, I'm going to just copy the API key here. I'm going to go back to my workflow. And here I'm going to hit create credential. And I'm going to paste the same exact API key. I'm going to skip the organization ID. And for the base URL, I want to make sure that I'm replacing this with the base URL that I obtained from the Cloud Keyspace. Go back to my lab and paste the base URL right here. Okay, so I'm going to hit save right now. As you can see, it says connection tested successfully. However, there's a couple of things I want to point out here. Because if you pick from lists, as you can see, the list doesn't really match the known models of GPT. This is because it's not really working based on the UI that's been built. So if you try to run it based on the chat ID or chat model that we've selected, I'm just going to run a hello message here. It's going to go to the AI agent, but it's going to error out. So what you need to do is go into the chat model. And instead of picking from lists, you want to go by ID. And as suggested from the instruction on the left-hand bar here, you want to copy the OpenAI /GPT-4.1. Just copy that and paste it whole, word for word. And let's do a test run again. And this time, it should actually be able to access the appropriate model. So that's if you're using the Cloud Keyspace API keys. Now, what I want to point out is the difference between this and using the OpenAI API key is that it's much more straightforward when you use OpenAI API keys. So to show you the difference, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create another new credential, and I'm going to call it OpenAI account 2. This time I'm going to head over to platform.openai.com, And what I want to do is head over to API key section. I'm going to create a new secret key in, and then email integration. I'm going to hit create secret key, and I'm going to copy the API key and head back to my lab. I'm going to paste the API key and leave the base URL as is, and I'm going to hit save. So there we go. So connections tested successfully. And the difference is, instead of by ID, I can now just pick from the list, and it should load up the correct list of models that I might possibly want to use. So for example, if I choose GPT 4.1, it's just going to be that. And we're going to run this node again. And as you can see, it's calling the correct model right here. Okay. So the next thing I want to point out is when you add your Gmail node on the next workflow, or Google tool for that matter, the difference between doing that in our labs versus end-to-end cloud is that on end-to-end cloud, you often see when you create a new credential with Gmail that you can actually have a button which you can sign in directly using your Google account if your browser happens to be a Google Chrome browser. However, with the labs, what you need to do when you create a new credential is you actually need to connect it with the OAuth method. So what you want to do is you want to head over to console.cloud.google.com. And the first thing you want to do is create a new project. And for the new project, I'm going to name it end-to-end email app. All right. So I'm going to leave this as no organization. I'm going to hit create. And it's going to take a couple seconds to create the project. And once that's done, I'm going to select the project. And as you can see, it says end-to-end email app project. And the very first thing I want to activate is I want to go to Gmail API. So what I'm doing right now is I'm creating a project because that's how Google recognizes each of these OAuth access that we're giving it. But the way the security works is you need to enable the particular tool that you want to use within the project. So in this case, I want to use Gmail. So I want to make sure I enable the Gmail API. All right. Once that's enabled, I want to head over to OAuth consent screen. And right now there's no OAuth consent that's set up. So I'm going to just hit get started. And in this case, I'm going to have to call it an app name as well. So I'm just going to say it is end-to-end email app. Okay. User support email. I'm going to put this, and we're going to select external. And by the way, each of these steps is documented on the left-hand side panel of the lab. So you don't have to memorize any of these, but we're going to go to next, and under contact information, just going to put my email here. And once you're done, just hit continue and create. So just before we go, I just want to go to audience, and I want to add a test user here, which is an email that you're going to use to send out basically the emails that you want the agent to send out. So in this case, it's marconi@codecloud.com. We're going to save that. And lastly, we're almost there. We're going to go to API and services again. And this time we're going to go to credentials. And what we want to do is to hit create credentials with OAuth client ID. And application type, we want to choose web application. And under name, we want to name it and then email OAuth client. And then we're going to add the authorized redirect URLs, which we can obtain from our lab. So going back into the lab here, you see that this is the OAuth redirect URL, and we're going to copy this, and we're going to hit back and just fill this in, and we're going to hit create. And as you can see, we now have the client ID and client secret to the app that we've just created. So we're going to copy this and head back to client ID, paste it in, client secret, copy that, paste in the client secret. And you'll see now that there is a sign in with Google button that pops up. So what you want to do is just hit that, and a Google login pop-up will show. And then you just want to correctly select the email address. And you'll say that Google hasn't verified this app, but because you're the one who created it, you know it's safe. So we're just going to hit continue. And we're going to select all because we want to have the agent be able to do all these actions with our Gmail. So we're going to hit continue now. And as you can see, it says connection successful, and we're good to go. So just wait a couple seconds here within the labs, and it's just going to load up. And there you go. I already have my credentials set up here. And we just want to run an execute step to show you that everything is working. So in the workflow, you'll see that we've chosen to define all of this by the model. So we're going to let the AI agent define this, and we're going to start chatting and say, hi, can you send an email to marconi@codecloud.com to just say hello. All right. So we're going to hit this. So as you can see now, the workflow is run, and it's actually sent an email to my Gmail. So let me take a look. And there we go. It says, hello, Marconi. Just want to say hello. Best regards. Okay. So obviously it's not very sophisticated because actually in the AI agent, we didn't even specify any system prompt. So the whole point is just to show you the main difference between running the environment on end-to-end cloud and within our playgrounds, specifically covering the part where code key is being used, as well as when you're going to access any Google tools, Gmail, Google Sheets, and stuff like that. You do need to go to your Google Cloud Console to set up the project, the app, and the OAuth clients in order to access Google services with the workflow.